We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them. The Republicans, they show up.
The political left often prides itself on being the nation's guiding light. Fair, forward-thinking, and unwaveringly righteous. But Bill Maher isn't buying that image. A lifelong liberal himself, he's become his movement's toughest critic, calling out the denial and double standards that he believes are tearing it apart from the inside. Maher argues that the thoughtful, truth-driven liberal culture he once admired has been replaced by outrage and group loyalty. It's a bold statement, but you'll want to stick around to hear what comes next. After all, the so-called champions of truth don't usually stick around for this kind of reality check.
I don't completely believe any of it. Not right away, not until I check it out. And when I ask, is it true? Usually the answer turns out to be, well, sort of. Or yes, but yeah. See, we've all become very adept at saying things that are technically true but lack context, or that leave out half the story. So if we're going to ban untruth, does that include the half-truth, the quarter-truth? And wait, don't the wokest people in the world believe that what really matters is your truth?
I actually find myself agreeing with Maher on this point. We have to ask, what kind of truth is the left really promoting when it insists on playing the role of the nation's truth keeper? Is it the version that conveniently upholds its own power, or the kind that challenges it? It's easy to wave the banner of honesty when the facts align with your goals, flatter your beliefs, and make you look like the good guy. But the real challenge comes when that same truth shines a light on your own blind spots, leaders, or cherished ideas. That's usually when the commitment to honesty starts to fade. Maher's criticism cuts sharply here. A political movement shouldn't claim ownership of truth. You can't say you're standing for facts while ignoring the ones that make you uneasy. In the end, you either stand by the truth completely, or you're just running a more polished misinformation campaign.
People ask me all the time, why haven't you ever had Hillary or Bill Clinton on? Why didn't you have Kamala on during the last campaign? You think we don't ask? We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them. The Republicans, they show up.
The political left often prides itself on taking a stand against illegal content, falsehoods, and wild conspiracies, proudly calling themselves the defenders of truth. And sure, that part's easy. No one's arguing in favor of lies or crimes, but that isn't where the real struggle lies. The real danger begins when facts are twisted, cropped, or reshaped to fit a political goal. When truth is filtered to support one side or silence another, it stops being truth at all. It becomes a crafted story. Bill Maher has been warning about this for years. He's watched the shift from championing free speech to enforcing a kind of ideological uniformity. The mission is no longer about exposing falsehoods. It's about controlling which version of reality gets seen. And that, he argues, is the most damaging form of censorship. Actions that appear virtuous but are really about shielding people from ideas they're perfectly capable of thinking through on their own.
And so should it be in the digital town square. And so should bots and deep fakes be banned, and anything else that aren't really the people who say they are. But that's an entirely different thing than actual people expressing an opinion as repugnant or offensive or as misguided as some opinions may be. This is still America, where people have the right to express what they think, including to be wrong, to lie, and yes, the right to be an asshole. And if you think you know everything and no one else could possibly have some other truth, you should be glad for that protection, because you're an asshole.
In America, free speech isn't just a privilege, it's the foundation of democracy itself. It's what separates open societies from those ruled by fear and control. Every person should have the freedom to share their ideas, even when those ideas are controversial or unpopular. But that freedom also comes with responsibility, the responsibility of others to question, debate, and test those beliefs. That's how honest discussion, not forced silence, brings truth to light. It's a fragile balance. Too much control leads to censorship. Too little can spiral into chaos. But here's the truth. Freedom of expression was never meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be genuine, unfiltered, challenging, and sometimes messy. The moment we start muting voices in the name of safety, we chip away at the very thing that makes America unique: the courage to think, speak, and disagree without fear.
41% of Democrats last year believed the hospitalization rate if you got COVID unvaccinated was over 50%, when it was actually less than 1%. Somebody's misinformation got to those people. Sometimes misinformation is just history's first draft. I see a lot of things on social media and also on old media.
When it comes to the Democratic Party's handling of COVID, Bill Maher hasn't stayed quiet. He's argued that the same group urging everyone to trust the science often spread misleading information themselves. Instead of focusing on facts, he said the debate around vaccines became too political. Anyone who questioned the rules was quickly branded as reckless, arrogant, or uninformed. During the height of the pandemic, major news outlets filled the airwaves with grim reports of hospitals overflowing with unvaccinated patients. But Maher insists the real numbers told a different story. He pointed out that fewer than 1% of those who skipped the shot were ever hospitalized, suggesting the data was exaggerated to pressure compliance and shame those who disagreed. The issue isn't simple, but this revelation challenges the entire narrative. To Maher, it's a clear example of how blind political loyalty can replace scientific honesty, manipulation disguised as moral virtue.
Washington Post recently got embroiled in a self-inflicted storm when one of their best reporters, David Weigel, retweeted this joke. Every girl is bi. You just have to figure out if it's polar or neutral. The comedian who actually wrote the tweet called it a banal throwaway joke, which is exactly what it is. Throw away, as in if you don't like it, throw it away. For eons, both have made jokes about how the other is crazy, and no one but the perpetually offended thinks it means anything more than that the sexes get frustrated over how differently we each see the world. And yes, we relieve some of that frustration with humor and scene.
That's exactly the issue. The so-called woke crowd seems upset about something new every day. These days, almost nothing feels safe from outrage. It becomes a problem when someone decides that a harmless joke, a classic song, or even an old movie no longer meets today's ever-shifting moral standards. It's like walking through a cultural minefield where intent doesn't matter, only interpretation does. Comedy, once the last refuge of free expression, has become the biggest casualty. Many comedians now second-guess every punchline, afraid that one wrong word could get them labeled offensive or even canceled. Yet the crusade against humor marches on, even as most Americans grow weary of this endless storm of outrage. The goal seems to be rewriting what counts as acceptable behavior and erasing laughter in the process. The irony? It proves Maher's point. When everything is offensive, nothing can be funny. And once laughter disappears, truth becomes the next thing you're not allowed to say.
Pulled down his retweet and wrote, "I apologize and did not mean to cause any harm." And that was the end of that. I'm joking, of course. The unlicensed daycare center that is today's newsroom went ape. You see, the Post has another writer named Felicia Sonmez, and she's a lot. For example, she tweeted about Kobe Bryant's 2003 rape trial hours after his helicopter crash. And despite the fact that she says Dave Weigel is a good friend, she resurrected the tweet he had taken down with a screenshot and demanded to know what the Post was going to do about this unacceptable evil that must not be allowed to stand. Sarcastically writing, "Fantastic to work at a news outlet where tweets like this are allowed." Yes, can you imagine a world that allows jokes you don't like?
What frustrates cancel culture the most is that it refuses to forgive. It doesn't matter if someone deletes a post, offers a sincere apology, or pleads for a second chance, the outrage machine keeps turning. Regret means nothing to the mob. Chaos is the goal. Once you're marked as guilty, the mission becomes total erasure. Careers, reputations, and even families can end up in the crossfire because nothing is off limits. One misunderstood joke or years old comment can spark a full-blown witch hunt fueled by public virtue and social media fury. Real accountability has vanished, and this is about power. It's about deciding who gets silenced and who controls the story. That's exactly what Maher keeps warning about. When anger replaces humor and forgiveness fades away, society stops moving forward. Bit by bit, cancel culture consumes everything, one takedown at a time.
Of course, the leadership at the Post folded like a Miami condo and suspended Weigel without pay for a month and denounced the offending retweet as a gross violation of their values. free speech apparently not being one of them. Then a third Post reporter offered up the idea, of course on Twitter, because why do anything privately, that, hey, maybe everyone was overreacting and we should all just calm down. And then it was really on. Felicia demanded that the Post discipline him and tweeted about that. I assume she's tweeting about this right now.
Cancel culture needs to stop for one simple reason. It has no sense of balance, limits, or pause. What begins as a call for accountability quickly turns into a moral assault on anyone bold enough to disagree. It's never enough to address the original issue. The outrage soon spreads to anyone who dares to defend the accused, question the uproar, or even stay quiet. In this new social order, guilt by association rules the day. People dig through old interviews and years of posts, hunting for anything that might destroy a person's career, reputation, or peace of mind. It's a vicious cycle of fear-driven moral frenzy. Voices fall silent, not because they're wrong, but because no one wants to be next. And that's the real danger. It creates a culture where people censor themselves, conversations shrink, and the loudest thing left in the room is fear, while free expression fades into the background.
For days, she raged with the fire of 1,000 burning bras. Sending a gazillion tweets calling for more to be done against Weigel, mocking her bosses, attacking colleagues, and letting the world know how much the Washington Post sucked. And this endless bickering and infighting continued online in public view until the bell rang and they all went to 7th period. Now, note that I haven't yet told you what age Felicia Sonmez and her quarreling co-workers are. Why? Because I didn't have to. Because you can't imagine someone my age acting like this in an office.
The so-called woke crowd seems to have forgotten that people are capable of growing, learning, and changing. One offhand comment or lighthearted joke from years ago is often enough for them to brand someone forever. Context doesn't matter. Forgiveness doesn't matter. Redemption doesn't exist. They ignore the simple truth that as people mature and gain experience, their views evolve. What someone said in their 20s rarely reflects who they are in their 40s. But for the outrage movement, personal growth isn't the goal. Moral perfection in the moment is. Change is a natural part of being human, yet that idea seems lost on them. We're meant to make mistakes, learn from them, and become better people. The irony is that forgiveness, once seen as a strength, is now treated as weakness. As Maher points out, this obsession with endless punishment isn't just exhausting, it runs against everything America is supposed to stand for.
Times just ran an op-ed entitled, "Why Are We Still Governed by Baby Boomers?" This is why. Because too many millennials are overly sensitive, overly fragile, and have no sense of priorities. You know, I'm sure many boomers would love to retire, but they can't. They're like the grandmother who'd much rather be watching Judge Judy, but has to raise her grandkids because her own kids are too f***ed up to manage it.
Maher's message cuts to the core of what truly matters. Facts should never be determined by party loyalty, and freedom of speech cannot survive under selective permission. When one side begins to decide which truths are acceptable and which are forbidden, honesty itself starts to crumble. That's the warning Maher keeps repeating. Truth loses all meaning when it becomes a weapon of partisanship. He's not afraid to call out his own side even when it costs him applause, and that's what makes his voice rare. The same movement that once defended open debate has fallen into moral policing, outrage cycles, and cancel crusades. What began as a stand for justice has turned into a culture of fear. People hesitate to speak, artists hold back their humor, and honest disagreement disappears. The result? A dull sameness where creativity and courage fade. Maher reminds us that real progress isn't born from silencing or shaming, but from discussion, disagreement, and the willingness to face uncomfortable facts. Forgiveness and growth must replace endless retribution. Change is part of being human. Learning from mistakes is what strengthens democracy. If America is to remain free, it must once again value truth over tribe and understanding over outrage. The courage to speak and to listen is what keeps our society alive. That's why Maher's challenge is so vital: to reject fear-driven conformity and embrace honest conversation, even when it's messy. Because in the end, defending free thought and compassion is the only way to protect what makes this nation unique. Thank you for watching. If this perspective gave you something to think about, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more thoughtful takes. I'll see you in the next one.